Hello and welcome to the Uprising Show. And today I have a very special guest, Tom Ross. Tom, take a minute to give a brief intro about you to our listeners, and then we go more details on your background.
Okay. From the 1 minute version is I'm a career long sales and marketing guy in the medical device startup space. I started long ago, back when companies like Eli Lilly were investing in medical device companies. I was able to join a device company that they had acquired in the critical care space. And since that time, I've come up through product management and marketing management by working at smaller companies. I've taken responsibility for sales and marketing. And then in the last 30 years, I've been here in Silicon Valley medical device startup space with several device companies, some in critical care, some in pain management, orthopedics, and neurovascular catheters. So it's been a fun time, and I'm currently in the consulting mode, helping small companies and startups with figuring out their go-to-market plan, doing some go-to-market implementation, and also helping with fundraising.
Wonderful. This is going to be great because, as I would say, I'm just I'm in that field, go to
Okay.
market,
Yeah.
and this is where the whole action. I've spent the last decade in the U.S. Before that, I was in Germany. So, but all healthcare for me is just U.S. That's where I worked, not anywhere in the world. So this is going to be interesting in that way. Um,
Okay.
let's start. So before we go into your professional experiences, let's go back in time. Where were you born and raised? Was either of your parents in healthcare? And and also, I always ask, like, did you love when was your love for healthcare started? Where did you start in healthcare?
Okay, well, that's way more than the 1 minute version, but the short version for that question is that I was born in Southern California, born and raised, and all the way through college and graduate school, all in Southern California. Um, my parents were both educators, and so education was critical. My father certainly encouraged education plus a some kind of high scale career path. And so he encouraged me to get into sciences and think about medical school or other jobs that were good in the sciences. So that's I came through a lot of science in college, but also University of California, UCLA School of Public Health, got a master's degree, and then decided to get practical and got a business degree, all at UCLA. So 8 long years there at UCLA, and by meeting so many people that were in the sciences, I really got excited about healthcare plus the business aspects in order to make a career out of it.
Well, and is and immediately after outside of the college, you went into healthcare, or was there some transition point for you?
Well, actually, as I ended my college experience, I got a job at the UCLA Department of Surgery in the medical center, and through associating with others, everybody that was wearing a white coat, and so we called everybody doctor. That's where I got the name the device doctor. But the from there, getting the School of Public Health degree, I also got a medical technology license and worked at the UCLA hospital. And then, like I said, I decided what that was also about the time I got married. I decided, hey, that is, I better get practical and go to business school. So all of that time spent to build the educational value in my beginning of my career path.
Wonderful. And you have had vast experience. Like you have worn many titles over last 40 plus years, product marketeer, CEO, COO, founder, fundraiser, mentor. So, but outside of business cards, how do you define yourself?
I like the title generally good guy. So, I'm very active with my grandchildren. So, they call me Baba Tom. So that's a very important title for me. I'm very fortunate. All three families from my kids have decided to live here in the Bay Area. So they're all within a 1 hour drive. And so I spend a lot of time visiting my kids and my grandchildren. So that title, Baba Tom, and generally good guy. Those are the important personal aspects to me.
Love it. Yeah, that's nice. So now let's talk about your professional journey a bit. So you have taken companies from 0 to 10 million, then from 4.5 million to 45 million, and helped raise over 400 million. What's the common denominator in the medtech startups that actually break through? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, to me, the breakthrough, the fact that a company breaks through and builds revenue, there is a lot of background work done before that time, before the product gets launched, and most of that has to do with the combination of technology to the solution to the problem and whatever the problem is that the company is focusing on. And the reason that the reason that companies are successful is because they have a solution that people really value, that either the clinician, the patient, or the healthcare facility values, and that is what makes companies successful. And so at the outset, the founder group needs to have a good knowledge about what is the problem, how are we going to solve it, and what is the value of that we can offer to people. And so some people call that the market fit for the product, but so to me, it's both the technical and the clinical side.
And it's been you have had like this long run. Have you seen some big changes happening, just like how products are coming to market, especially on the go to market side? What would you say, like, few changes from your experiences which were way different 30 years ago and now?
Sure. All right. That long run means, hey, Tom, you're old, so I can give you the perspective from somebody who's survived the long run. The uh, I would say in the last few years, and maybe it's been 10 years, but the emphasis on digital health and aspects of digital information gathering and file sharing or cloud sharing of data for the patient, all of that is a modern trend. I'm from the non-digital era, so those are things that I work with and can help clients with. But for the most part, those are relatively new developments that are very exciting for the future and are a new era for me. So the devices that are worn and collect data that gets transferred to the cell phone, that then gets transferred to the cloud, that the clinician can monitor or report. All that is so important for the future and is really valuable. And the flip side of that, from the company's perspective that offers those tools, those the digital information and digital processing of data is something that doesn't require a manufacturing plant and a clean room and a sterilization facility and all of that. And so those trends are really impacting the investor interest in investing in technology, investing in that kind of digital technology. And it also has an impact on investing in technologies that are not digital. Most of my products and clients are products that actually enter the body. They may not collect data. They may just allow the surgeon to see or do something. And so that does require a clean room to produce and a sterilization facility and all of that. So I find that investor interest in that type of product, unfortunately, is declining because of money that is funneled into digital technologies. So I'm here to encourage you to invest in the non-digital products.
Yeah, it's it's I always say like, to everybody needs tech, but I think it's now even the brick and mortar is going to be tech enabled. So the question is more focused towards how can we enable more of that. Like that's kind of what it is, but it's still amplifying or increasing the brick and mortar services, make that experience better. How you do it is that's where I'm really interested in that. I worked in tech too a lot, but you know, tech. I always say like. Um, at the end of the day, everything on internet will have a drop off funnel, right?
Yeah.
So, and I, someone who actually worked for several tech companies, and right, and I always felt like, yeah, when we were doing this patient messaging platform, it was great for patients, yes, but I always felt like, well, the old patients always struggled to use that, so there was that drop off, right?
Yes.
And then so at some point in time, we came up with this idea that we will create this service that will connect with the phone itself and transcribe and move their communication into text format. And that was kind of our way of funneling those drop offs back into the system and keep it, more digital flow.
Yes.
So, um, so given your experience now, I don't know if you want to take a stance here and say like, did sales and marketing specifically got easier or difficult with time?
Well, it is changing substantially, but I think corralling customers, getting them to listen to your story, and convincing them to make a decision about your product. I think that's a tough job. No matter whether you do it remotely, digitally, or in person, just getting that interest level and having a real and true conversation about your product, that can be a tough job. So I don't think it's necessarily easier. It certainly is easier to broadcast your message across the country or internationally, but it is not really easier to make the customer decide to open the wallet and buy the product.
Yeah, somebody asked me a few days ago, was like, how do this sales and marketing fights inside the companies where they're like, no, this is not the marketing qualified lead, this is sales qualified lead, and all this, discussions that goes on. And I always say like, back in the days, there was billboards. People will see billboards and then they come to your website. And then by that time when they're coming, the intent is so high because they literally went through these steps, right? To
Yes.
get
Yeah.
to you. But today it's not. Today you're pushing traffic through whatever digital ads. So now we are catching people a lot who are like not even in buying journey way before, right? And once that happened, of course, the leads you will capture at some point in time, they're all in different buying
Yes.
journey, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, marketing will say we have too many leads, but this is not the same leads as you would probably have it in old funnel, right?
Right.
So, talk to me a little bit about in your experience, especially in current scenario, um, when you go into these companies, and I've seen it especially in medtech, this is slightly different from other industries, is sales and marketing needs to be really working in sync a lot more than any other industry. What's your take on that, or what are the best practices, the companies who really crack the code and really do well? What's your take on how sales and marketing function, or is there a better org structure for that?
Well, wait. You mean the how do sales work with marketing, or do you mean how do sales and marketing work with other departments?
Sales and marketing together with each other.
How do they work together? Yeah, well, okay, absolutely. Well, in the old days, back to the long career cycle. In the old days, salespeople hopped in a car and actually drove to the facility or physician's office, sat there, and what they really needed were tools in order to gather interest and also to make sure that they were qualifying their personal visits before they jumped in the car so that they knew there was a chance for effectiveness. And so I'd say all of those factors are still there. It's just that we're less often jumping in the car. but surgical tools still are very reliant on salespeople attending the actual case in most complicated products like orthopedic implants. The sales rep has the job of not only convincing the clinician to use the product, but also being there to make sure that the sales rep can impart any user data and advice during the procedure. And could be an hours long process. So marketing people need to understand what salespeople need in order to identify and qualify the clients. Marketing people need to provide the tools in order to generate interest in the product, and salespeople need those tools in order to follow up and provide service to the customers. And all those terms about interest and service, all those terms are the same whether you're jumping in the car or whether you're trying to organize a remote meeting and have the conversation. So it really is much the same. And another factor in the old days was that salespeople in general weren't very satisfied with marketing and the tools that were provided. Marketing wasn't very satisfied in some companies with what the salespeople were doing with those tools and how they were effectively used. And so some companies that I've worked with had substantial friction between sales and marketing, so much so that there was a lot of inefficiency. These days, I've worked with young groups and encourage sales and marketing to be seen as one thing, not two, but one thing. So it's been a while since I've worked at a larger company that actually had a sales versus marketing attitude, and hopefully most companies that are tuning into your show don't have that issue.
Yeah. Do you still think, like, especially in medtech space, do you still think there is this argument that even though the teams are combining, but like there's always this question about where should the BDR or SDR team sits within marketing or within sales, where they fit better. What's your take on that?
Well, my take is that if there are issues with that kind of question that you've just listed, then there's a upper level management problem that needs to be resolved. The attitude of what is happening in sales and marketing really comes from the top, whether it's the CEO or the VP of sales, VP of marketing. Hopefully there's only one VP of sales and marketing, but anyway, it is top management that sets the tone and the attitude for people and their expectations of how that department can make progress with helping the company achieve sales.
And I know you are very, or at least I would say you are pretty active on LinkedIn, right? So would you say in today's world, especially for sales folks and in fact marketing folks too, how important it is to like be on platforms specifically like LinkedIn to be active and engaging and sharing content? Where do you see the place for that?
Sure. Well, even companies that have products on the market really have, I think, a good utility for using contacts in LinkedIn. I got to say that most of my career, when I had a full-time job, I really didn't fully appreciate the value of maintaining an outside network outside my current job. So in the last several years, it really has come clear to me that maintaining a network, being in touch with people, is a great way to stay in tune with what's going on in the marketplace, and also contact people that you can help or that can help me. And even for active medical device salespeople, I think being active in LinkedIn is a good way to project your image of competence to people outside of your company and even outside of your network that will help your career and also help your current sales.
Yeah, and not to not surprisingly these days, I see even on my feed, a lot of orthopedic people who are running practices right in the middle of America with their membership model. They are active on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
so I always say, like, one of the things good about LinkedIn is it is still the most, I would say, the network that has the most educated audience in the world, which becomes super relevant in medtech or healthcare world, right? Because those are the
Yes.
folks, those are there, right? So it's good science that we see surgeons now being on LinkedIn and now sharing more insights. The question really I have is, a lot of time I see that everybody's just trying to be everywhere, and then they go and like, oh, I gotta post here, I gotta post here, I gotta post everywhere, right? And that becomes like really like a burnout situation, right?
Yes.
So that's one thing. How do you create that right mix, especially if you are provider in that case? And then second thing, same applies to the employees, because not anymore, but still at many places people view it like, well, this guy is always on LinkedIn. When is he working? How do you,
Yeah.
how do you
Sure.
get over those two things? And what's your take on both those things?
Well, you never know what an employee is doing with the computer that is in front of him or her, right? I mean, they could be uh, watching YouTube or watching political news or what have you. So that kind of concern about employee involvement and effectiveness really is everywhere. It doesn't just involve LinkedIn activity. I would say that the effectiveness of an employee needs to have some key performance indicator. Every job, every position has different factors, and so some of those might be improved by having more activity online with customer contacts or LinkedIn contacts, and some of those might be what those customer contacts or other things on the computer might be a distraction. It's a very important tool and a very valuable career building a network of people that you're in contact with, but that's not the only measure of performance or employee worth. So, got to work that out for each position, really.
Do you think any company would restrict usage in today's day and world to employees to not use LinkedIn, especially in medtech world?
Well, I would say that it all depends on what the actual requirement of the employee is and what the performance measures or the performance indicators are. So I certainly don't see a reason for a company to be restrictive in the use of the tool. But on the other hand, we most companies would not put LinkedIn time per se into a key performance indicator unless that particular pool of target audience is what that job is all about. So don't restrict it, but manage it carefully and wisely.
What makes a great medtech product? This is from the end of, one truly sticks with the clinical world and can actually earn a spot in doctor's hand. Uh,
Yeah.
what's your take on that?
Well, back to my comment about the definition of the problem. What is it that product is doing or is aimed to do for somebody, and the definition of the technology. What is that product capable of doing, and how is it providing the solution? So if you have a problem that is very well solved by a technology, then you have something of value to offer to customers, and those are the companies that take off. And so I have an interesting comparison. As I was saying, much of my career has been with products that enter the body, like a vascular catheter to solve a bleeding aneurysm, for example. Very complicated products, a a lot of technology built in just to structure the catheter and the aneurysm treatment component, whether they're coils or a stent or a stent graft. So a lot of technology, and some of the, you listed, one company that I've been with, for example, that I joined as a very young startup. We grew from $0 to $10 million in my time there, with primarily with devices that treat aneurysms, a complicated technology and product. Okay, but the company where I had actually the company that I was with that had the greatest success in terms of numbers was a recent company in orthodontic materials that grew basically from about 4 million to grow sales by 10x. What was the product? It was a flat sheet of plastic. It was a clear plastic that purposefully designed to make the clear braces that are so popular these days. And I like to tell people that it was my sales skill that actually caused the company to grow by 10x. But actually, it was a collision of all the market forces and a very valuable product that helped to solve the problems of the clear braces type products. So anyway, that's what you need. You need a problem that somebody really needs to have solved, a system or a device that actually resolves those, creating value, and then market it appropriately or sell it appropriately so that you actually can achieve those revenues.
And you now run the Device Doctor, and you're helping startups with fundraising, planning, and even product market fit, right? So what's the most common mistakes you see, founders make? And can you share a time when you had to deliver a tough love that changed the course of the startup afterwards?
Yeah. Well, with young startups, tough love is sometimes all we got. So I am troubled sometimes by being a downer. What a founder or a small founder group really expects or really wants is a cheerleader that is going to give them energy and encouragement in order to achieve and really succeed, right? Cheerleader. But sometimes a consultant has to, redirect some of the activities of the company and the activities of the founders and employees. And in that sense, unfortunately, it can be interpreted as being a downer. It's like, oh, well, Tom doesn't think we're going to be successful. But okay, so that's one thing. Another part to answer your question is that I find that founder groups many times have unrealistic expectations for something, how fast their product is going to grow, how easy it is going to develop the product, how easy it is to get regulatory clearance, how much sales will take off, and how fast. The more unrealistic the expectations, the more challenging it can be for the company to actually work its way through to the end and be successful. So I don't like being a downer, but I frequently am coaching people to reevaluate their objectives and the speed and the resources that are going to be needed in order to achieve the objectives. So that's a big part of the job, redirecting and making things realistic.
Okay. I see a lot of time, it's almost like a blessing in disguise too, because, it's like everything is against you in early stages.
Yeah.
So you need to have almost like you almost have like a chip on your shoulder to go towards with that, optimism. So I know you're kind of doing a gut check when you are telling them probably all these things, making them centered around what's reality. But how important it is that wearing the chip on the shoulder. What's your take on that? That it's a key trait they should do it.
It's a very fine line. I mean, I absolutely, I think it's great the point that you're bringing up. I mean, you can't have people that don't believe they're going to succeed, but you also can't have people that think everyone has to be a superhuman, and that they're going to succeed regardless of how much news and more realism that hits them. So it is a fine line, and it takes management time and experience to realize where that line is, to have a chip on your shoulder or a strong belief that you're going to be successful no matter what happens and no matter what the indications are. You need a good dose of that kind of attitude. On the other hand, you can't have objectives like I was saying earlier that are so unrealistic that it just isn't going to happen. And so somewhere someone has to find that line of realistic optimism, I would call it. Realistic optimism is the way to go. Keep positive, keep working. Don't let anybody stop you, but you need to develop a system of expectations or objectives for the company that really are real.
Let's talk about fundraising. I know that in the last few years the environment has changed a little bit for fundraising. What's latest happening? Like, are you seeing bigger switch towards now investors behaving certain way? There is certain different expectation than what it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'd say that 2025 is likely to be more positive for medtech and biotech investing in general compared to 2024 and possibly 2023 as well. So I think there's a positive trend to believe that there's going to be improved environment. And then the other aspect that's changing is that we mentioned before, and that is the emphasis on the digital world and connectivity is very high these days. So there are fewer investors lining up to invest, I feel, in products that are strictly an implant that or a surgical tool that does not provide connectivity and improved data, cloud service of analysis of the data, and so on. And that's not because people don't believe in those products. It's because they have a choice to make in where to put their funds and what to invest in, and the popularity and the wave of emphasis really is on the digital world, I think.
And I know like venture capital works slightly different from private equity world, but are you seeing there is more questions around how to turn break even from venture capital side on the fundraising for last couple of years?
Yeah, I'd say the questions each fund has a particular interest in the how early the technology or how close to market launch or how many millions of dollars the company already is selling. So each fund has a sweet spot, and so I'm not quite sure where how that sweet spot is on average, where the median is. But I think in the fundraising mode, it's very important to find out who you're talking to, who is your pitch talking to and being presented to, and what is the interest of that party? Are they interested only in a 2-year time horizon, in which case that product better already be on the market? Or are they interested in very early solutions to broader medical problems that may take much longer, but in the long run promise to have a larger payout? So I don't know. The answer to the question is I don't know where the shift is in the overall interest level of private equity versus VCs, but each entity that you've pitched to has a particular interest level, and it really is important to find out what their average investment is or what their interest level is, and use that information during your pitch.
Okay. And obviously, with your experience, you have sat at the table with institutional investors, probably surgeons, engineers, sales leaders. What's your secret of being able to translate between all of them and get them aligned? It's I always feel like I had one of my mentors. He was really good in like making sure the team alignment was really good. So, and something I picked up was he told me like, uh, you don't have to be like a leader to influence people to get alignment. You
Okay.
can do this without leaders, without the title of leader. And that was really profound what he told me. So I want to hear your take on that. How you have managed? What's your secret sauce?
Well, I think the topics that we've been discussing about realism, optimistic realism, or realistic optimism, I think that's very important because when I see a pitch that is, way off the map in terms of target and unrealistic expectations, I think the target audience, the investor target audience, is likely to be negatively impacted by that. So, optimistic realism is a number one thing. Another is a business plan that makes sense. What is the plan? What is the target for the end stage of the company in order to achieve those objectives? And really, that is what gets things off to the right foot with these investor discussions. And from there, as I said, each investor group is likely to have specific interests and specific questions.
Yeah. And, obviously things have been evolving for last 30 years, especially bigger part of your career. What do you think are the things that you're most excited about where the industry is headed in the near future? And also maybe what are the things that you're worried about?
Well, I would say excited and worried about the same thing. The digital revolution and the emphasis on connectivity is something that really is an exciting time for these products. And I think that has to be handled well within each technology, and the the data security or the control of what happens to that data really needs to be part of the concern. And so there's a fine line there as well. What to be excited about and what to be cautious about in terms of development of all those technologies. But I think it's a very exciting time.
And your take on everything, obviously with AI is getting accelerated. What's your take on AI? Is it going to be like really a game changer, especially in medtech space? How fast? How much is your optimism scale?
Okay. I think it's an extremely useful tool, but I don't, I don't think anyone has a real gauge for exactly how far into our lives the AI trend will creep, and so I think there's a lot of positive benefit. I've used some of those tools myself, although I don't consider myself an AI expert. But so I think that it's a very positive technology and capability. But I don't really have a gauge for exactly how far it's going to go, and that's why you'll see some of my material. I tell people I use RI. Forget AI. I use RI. That's real intelligence. Okay, so, but that's me because I'm pre-digital. I'm using RI. But anyway, I understand AI tools, and I do use them at times.
And I know you might not, you probably haven't directly worked on the pharma side, but it's expanded ecosystem. where do you see, like, do you think AI is going to accelerate a lot of, especially the pharma, time to market from when it's goes in inception to research to launch? It takes many years right now to go to market. Do you see that will accelerate significantly?
I really don't. I mean, much of that time, the expectation and the actual real time really is determined by how safe you want something to be. How do you really document the efficacy, and what time does it take in order to find out if a treatment is efficacious? How do you want to compare the efficacy to the safety, and how long does it take you to judge whether a treatment is safe or not? And so those can be in the tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of patients' experiences, and each patient experience is not necessarily short. So, to me, there is very little about AI that's going to accelerate some of those biological processes that allow us to see the efficacy versus the safety. And that's why there's so many arguments about it, right? About what to vaccinate or not to vaccinate, to use AI, or what degree is that going to accelerate the process? So many arguments, but I believe that the crux of the matter is the actual biological response, being able to measure that, report on it, and then feel comfortable that you're making good decisions.
Yeah. It's like how you said it, like, how at the COVID time we decided to cut the cycle short, but we went with it because it was that kind of scenario, right? So it really goes back to how much I don't know, risk averse you want to be.
Yeah, that's right.
And put your resources accordingly and time, I guess. Okay. Now, couple of questions before we end our conversation today.
Okay.
After like decades of building, leading, advising, is there one principle you wish every medtech founder understood about how to build something truly impactful?
I think it is the investment required for true commercial success is not small, and so there's the technological issue of developing the innovation. There's the regulatory issue of making sure that it works or is cleared for selling, and then I believe most founders vastly underestimate the time and cost that it's going to take to actually produce a commercial success, even after the product is already cleared. So that is something that should affect everybody's thinking process, and the type of go-to-market plan that is produced, or the type of resources that they believe will be required. To me, that's number one on the list of things people should keep in mind.
Do you see this off a lot of time than you expect? Like maybe more than 50% of time you see people underestimating those investments?
Yes, I would say more than 50%. And a lot of that depends on the experience of the founder or the founder team, that from past products or from past companies. Those people that have been through it a couple of times, I believe in general, they're not underestimating the resources that would be required. Those people that are excited about the technology and just making a company or getting this technology going for the first time, I would say over 50% are underestimating what's required.
Got it. Now let's do a little quick fire personal round here questions.
Okay? Quick fire. Okay.
What's a book or a lesson that shaped your leadership style?
Yeah, I would say I don't have a book to point to on this, but I would say the leadership lesson is you can have those tough conversations with people and still be a reasonable person about it. So it's very it's very possible to maintain positive relationships with people as well as department to department, and still have the tough conversations that are necessary in order to make changes in activities, changes in attitudes, and keep a positive work environment. So that is to me, the number one lesson that I've learned by having so many doggone jobs over these all these years.
Okay. And what's harder, raising capital or raising kids?
Okay, that is a tough question. I would say it all depends. If we look at the time frame, if you have a kid, that is a lifelong commitment. Now, hopefully, you can raise capital and not be tied to that company 18 years later or 40 years later or what have you. So raising capital is a tough job. It really requires time and attention and energy to accomplish. But having kids and being involved with, if you expect a positive outcome from raising that child, you got to be involved and really pay attention. And so that it itself is a tough job.
All right. Based on my experience, I'm raising 2 girls, 3 and 5 right now. It's very hard. I feel like working is easier.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And last question. What have your grandkids taught you about life that business never could?
Okay. Well, I think the combination of my kids and grandkids have taught me that I need to stop parenting. Okay, so I can't show up at one of my kids' houses that may have. I have 3 families here in the Bay Area. Some have 2 kids, some have 3 kids, and I can't show up and then expect my word to be understood and taken as instructive as much as when I was the parent rather than the grandparent. So I'm trying to learn to stop parenting, be an advisor, be an observer, and I would say that is similar to the consulting role or to the fractional management role, where I can't control everything. I can't do everything myself. I can't control everything myself. My job is to advise and to observe and then guide and direct the company. My grandkids and kids have taught me that same thing about showing up as a grandparent and then advise and direct, but don't jump in and parent.
Great advice, I guess. How can people find you if they want to connect and reach out to you?
Sure. Well, thedevicedoctor.com is a great website to visit. I'm active on LinkedIn as it's hard to find Tom Ross or even Thomas Ross because there's so many doggone Rosses. So it's hard. We can ask people to call me, but the easiest way to find me that I can state here in a discussion is thedevicedoctor.com.
All right, cool. And we will put all the links in wherever you get your podcast from, and
cool. All right.
that will help you, guide you, get to Ross, Tom. And again, this has been great. Thanks for sharing all the insights with your, many years of experiences, and there's a lot to learn here for all of us.
Okay, thanks very much, Vivek. Thanks for your time, and hello to everyone out there.